Hi, Ideagen. Thank you again for having me. I'm super excited to have a conversation about authentic leadership with Dr. Fariba Alamdari. Hi, Fariba. Thank you for joining
Hi,
me today.
thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. We've had a handful of conversations over the last month, even, beyond that, I would say over COVID, year, 18 months. And some really interesting points have been brought up about leadership styles, what's important, resiliency, adaptability, how to keep pushing through, as we continue to get these onslaught of challenges. And one of the things that surfaced was authentic leadership. And I wanted to chat with you about that today. And to start off, I think it's important to baseline, the definition of authentic leadership. What do you consider to be authentic leadership?
Thanks, Sheri. Yeah, I'm sharing my opinion, and so you may agree or disagree, or the audience may think different ways. But to me, an authentic leader is a person who's trustworthy, who lives by a code of morals and value, and a life of integrity. So often we see people talk about different leadership style. To me, authentic leadership is not an isolated style. It is a foundation of all positive leadership that I call authentic leadership.
Thank you. We chatted about this as well, as it's one of your primary focuses. What has isolated and highlighted authentic leadership as one of the primary focuses for yourself?
Throughout my career and life, I have experienced people or organization that they say all the right words. And, they put posters, mottos, everything. But when it comes to actual actions, you don't see alignment between what they say and what they do. And that is, to me, a huge gap. It kills trust, it kills credibility. And these organizations or these people knowingly or unknowingly do that because I believe they haven't done a good job of being self-aware. So having seen these situations, I try. I'm not saying I am the master of this style by no means, but I know the importance of alignment between words and action. And that's why it's important to me. And I've been working on it throughout my career to make sure that I stick to this value. And sometimes, we fade, but it's good to know that it's very, very important. We just can't say things and not do it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. For folks who are listening, and what are some of the things that an individual might be able to do to get started on a journey towards understanding their authentic leadership style, or someone who might have, how would they be able to increase their proficiency within their leadership capabilities?
A great question, and I'm glad you asked that. Again, here are my thoughts. I think there are many factors and traits that an authentic leader you know, would have. But to me, self-awareness, as I mentioned, is very important. I think it is important for any person or any organization to really sit and think about their strengths and understand their weakness and work on it. When we talk about authentic leadership or authentic me, it's not so much about the real me and what I like to do. Is about the best of me, how I address my weaknesses. I feel authentic leaders are aware of how they think, how they behave. They understand how their behavior, words, or their actions impact others. And sort of to summarize it, it's not so much about, my way or highway. It's not so much about saying, this is who I am, take it or leave it. It's about understanding where there are weaknesses in my leadership, especially in relation to the organization or the team that I am working with, and try to improve them. So sometimes authentic leadership is abused by some leaders because they say, well, this is who I am, this is what I do because I want to be me. I don't think authentic leadership is about that. It's about positive behavior. And I think, you're asking what can someone do to become more proficient in that area. So as I said, first step, self-awareness, assessing yourself. But knowing that during that process, we need to develop some value or moral codes.
Yeah.
What are my values? What are my moral codes? And usually, an authentic leader is trustful. They build relationship with their team members, colleagues, even leaders. That they have integrity. They have certain moral values that they don't compromise. Like, for example, respect for all. I don't think there is any excuse for any leader to disrespect their team members or colleague in any way or shape. We can be honest, but we can tell the truth. We can communicate the actual information we have, the data. We can give truthful feedback. But to bring alternative facts or massage the facts and not tell the truth is not going to work, because people usually they find out or they sense it. And again, in that process of self-awareness, and as we go through our values, we mentioned making sure to be credible. We said, walk the talk, do what you say. Another trait that or value is important is to be compassionate. Be kind, but firm. It's not about just overly being nice. It's about being truthful and have interest for people, even when you give feedback. We had a session about giving feedback and receiving feedback previously, but you start with positive motive, positive intention. You are courageous to challenge sometimes ideas or processes, but all you have in mind is um, to improve the situation. You have the best of people in your heart. This thing doesn't sometimes come naturally, but if we know we lack in these areas, if we know we are very cold, or we are told we are perceived cold, this is something we can work on. We may not become the most passionate person, but we know it is important, and figure out ways to show that you care for people. Also, have humility. We all make mistakes. Sometimes we all say the wrong things. But it is important that when we make mistakes, we take responsibility. Yeah, hands up. Yes, I did it. These kind of things create that trustworthiness. This kind of behavior show that you are transparent. And these are some of the things that we all can work on to become better at.
Those are great points, and I think one of the there's a lot of emphasis in leadership that is increasing right now over mindfulness. And I think having that personal assessment and your value system established, or at least starting to figure out what it is if you haven't taken a recent check-in or haven't had a chance to put much thought into it, merging that with, I think, mindfulness of how you're showing up, how you're being received, how it's being perceived, and having that added in there is a great way of being able to utilize that value system. And I think that reliability of sticking with that messaging that you hold to, if you're if your one of your key items is respect for all people, folks know when you show up in the room that is the environment that you walked into, and that they will be respected for what they have. And I think that turns into a lot of creating that foundation, which ultimately helps for innovation in that teamwork, especially today. We're this far into dealing with a COVID environment that's driven so much of us to digital virtual environments. We're able to use video, but we're not face to face. Sometimes we have video, sometimes we have bad connections, so it's just voice, or there's so much variety. You just show up and what are we dealing with today? How are we going to get through this? And I think that is that check-in, that self-check, and having some mindfulness. I had a manager years ago, and he made a comment to me, and he said, you cannot not ripple. And you're going to show up and have some level of impact. The tiniest drop of water into a bucket is going to have some ripple to the entire bucket itself. So, are you a big drop that day? Are you a little drop? Do you want to be a little drop? Do you want to be a bigger drop? Where are you at within that? And I think that mindfulness is understanding that ripple effect, what a ripple effect you're after, and then basing that off of that self-assessment, those priorities, I think is a really great way to sort through some of the foundations of what your authentic leadership style could be, and how you end up working through that. And being where we are right now, out of the other styles of leadership, why do you think authentic leadership is so important today, and the value that it brings?
I think, just think about it. What are we facing right now, whether you are a person or organization. Everybody is exposed to extra level of stress because we are in stressful times and challenging times due to the pandemic, due to the way now people want to work, the hybrid work style. We hear about great resignation. We are seeing society is dealing with challenge of, as I mentioned before, alternative facts, conspiracy theories, and some people say we are in the age of post-truth. So there are so many things is going on in addition to some of the challenges that people already had in their career or in their lives. So we really need to have a renewed focus on authentic leadership because this style, research has shown that is more effective during trying times. And it would lead to restoring confidence, hope, optimism, so that we can go through these turbulence times. So that's why I think we need to think about it more carefully. And as I said, there are a large body of research on these authentic leadership style that they are effective, especially in the environment we are in. As you said, we attend meetings through Zooms. That body language communication, to some extent, is gone. So our words matters. And as you said about the ripple effect, when we start our communication or when we start the meeting, the tone of leader is very important. Do you come across as someone who has optimism or a victim mentality, a positive attitude or negative attitude? These have impact on the rest of the meeting and on the rest of people. And I always say, if you're in a bad mood for whatever reason, try to minimize your connections with other people, your communication with other people, because you do have impact on others. And when you're in a good mood, meet more people. That is important. So there are, as I said at the beginning, there are many factors that makes a leader real authentic. It's not about just smiling all the time or being nice. No, you have to be also decisive. You have to deal with bad behavior and celebrate good behaviors. But you do it in an honest and authentic way. Your words, your action is based on positive intent, positive motive. It's not about, I got you now, and I'm going to criticize. I'm sure we talked about giving feedback. I'm sure, when you have loved ones and you want them to get better, you just don't sit and smile at them. You talk from heart and you tell them, this is how you are being perceived. Do you want to think about it? So there are so many elements, but again, as you said, you have to have humility, you have to be open-minded. And being authentic to me is to stick to your set values because there are times that you have to make decision, and it's not so much about which meeting you go or which customer we serve. Is about how do I conduct myself. Those moments are very crucial to go back to your set of values and see the action you're going to take is aligned with those values or not. And usually they're positive values because, as I said, hopefully no leader have bad values or values that is not really loved by many people because, as I said, it's not an excuse to say, oh, this is who I am. So you go back to those values that are positive, it's about integrity, and you do the right thing, even if it's very difficult. But then you have the open mindedness that if there are areas, depending on the organization you work with, you have to change. It could be the way people dress up. Some organizations are very casual, some organizations or companies are very formal. I can't go with very casual appearance in a company that's not the way they are. I am in a wrong place if I want to continue that. So I adjust myself accordingly. But if I am somewhere that they are asked me to do things that to me is not the right way, no matter what, I stick to my value. That is, do the right thing. Do the right thing.
And those are really, really great points. And I think, we've talked about this a couple different times. That having that foundation and that stability that you stand on creates a foundation for others to stand on as well. And I think during these uncertain times, often that's what some folks, our teams are looking for, is that little bit of stability. And if you have a firm grip on your priorities and your value system, you can be firm about that, then that is something to create a foundation on. And that is something that other folks can be able to hang on to when, they might have a handful of other things going on in their personal lives, and to be able to get some little bit of stability. And stability can show up in a different variety of ways. And I think stability can even show up as consistency. And by being authentic to that value system and consistent with it, you have individuals who can take a little bit of that ground and stand on it, knowing that that's there. And I think that level of authenticity is really, really a great, powerful tool to be able to use as we figure out how to continue to help our teams and to move forward. Because collectively, what are we after? What are we doing? What are we, having that common objective, or at least that sight in front of us of what we're going after, I think is really, really important. And the authentic leadership is a means to get there, and a means to helping our teams get there as well. That's really, I think those are some really great. I'm going to do a little bit of self-evaluation myself. Do a little check-in, make sure I'm in alignment with, reprioritizing, and take some time. I think there's some definite really good value in that. I appreciate
you are making a good point, Sheri, that I think as a leader or team members, we are all leaders in some ways. When we say leadership is not necessarily have huge number of people reporting to you, but it's good to encourage people, whether they are part of your team or their colleagues, to do that self-evaluation. Because to create an authentic environment, leaders have very important role, but team members or colleagues also have some role to play. And again, there is huge amount of literature and research on the so-called authentic followership. That means that you are following this leader who is authentic because of authentic reasons, not because my next promotion is getting close. No, you really genuinely following this leader. And then you have an authentic relationship. Again, I'm going back to being open-minded and giving feedback. As a team member, as a colleague, you can give feedback to your boss or colleagues who are lateral to you. So you have that authentic leadership, because sometimes they are not aware of the impact they make on others or how they are perceived. So you help them with that. So the followers create a mirror of development process of authentic leadership. In that way, we end up having an environment, an organization, or a team that they work on the foundation of being authentic. That is another part that we need to consider and talk about.
That's fantastic. For those today, as we near the end of this chat, what parting words do you have for folks tuning in to this? What would you like to leave them with?
I often say a leader's job is not to be a hero. Sometimes they need to, if we are in a war or if the organization is facing huge challenges, that is a matter of, closing the shop or keeping it open. You go and act like a hero, and you have to go and do what is right, but very quickly. But often, leadership is about being a steward, to bring a group of people together. So collectively, you solve problems, serve the customers, and you have a dialogue with team members or colleagues. Is not about follow me, close your eyes, trust me, let go, and never explain the rationale behind decisions. Yes, as a leader, if there is no consensus and you are going to go forward, you make the decision at the end, because lack of decision making is another problem. But there is a balance in that. So I say in many situations, leadership need to be focused on being a steward than a hero.
Steward. That's a really
and also I would say leadership is not a badge or a crown for leaders to be worshipped. Leaders are given responsibilities, and their responsibility is to serve.
Excellent. We are most certainly working to serve as best we can, and that check-in, that assessment, that personal value system, I think, is a really great way for folks sorting out their journey as to being stewards of our communities and of our teams to accomplish great things, especially, with the sustainable development goals. Got to have that driving force to get there. I think those are all a really phenomenal way to get started. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and a little bit of the leadership coaching that you do for so many others. I really do appreciate the time you've taken with us today. Thank you, Fariba.
My pleasure. And as I said at the beginning, I'm just sharing my thoughts.
Appreciate it.